Streaming our council meeting as of tonight, and we also record it too, and then put it on our website. So we have any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, somebody wish to move the agenda as presented? Lyle, thank you. Any questions on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, adoption of the previous minutes.
I'll move them, but with the amendment that Karen's already read, just a typo.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to the first presentation, which is the bird prey. You guys have 15 minutes, so floor is yours.
Yeah.
See, we got 15 minutes, can you let us know when we're 12 and a half and 3/4?
Yeah,
That's very good. Absolutely. Paul, we'll need you up here as well, the chair.
And when you get really close, then you just cut you off.
Okay. Worship councilors, before, again, I just want to, for the purpose of the minutes, introduce who we are. My name is Mason Dodds. I'm representing the 9 in a Line Creative Arts Society. I am the treasurer. To my immediate right is Pat Weisner, local businessman, and has been involved with tourism in one phase or another for many, many years. On my far right is Paul Carew from Calgary. He has a vested interest with the Star Trek theme in Vulcan, particularly the Klingon environment. The Bird of Prey initiative is what you see before you. This is the Klingon warship, which is the opposing force of the Enterprise, which we have on display as an art piece at the beginning, the entrance to town. And what I'm going to ask for Pat to just give an idea as to why this has come about, and Paul Carew will give you an idea as to how the funding is going to take place, and how that will then come back to me as to how the 9 in a Line is being involved. So, Pat?
Thank you, Mason. I'm Pat Weisner. Maybe a few of you only know me, but I'm involved in a lot of different things, and tourism is one of my pet things. I like Paul, who has brought a group of his gang, his group here. And before we go on, if you want to just introduce the guys, and then we all know who they are.
Okay. We have a motley collection of Star Trek fans here. And these people have been supporting Vulcan since I've been involved. Yeah. Immediate is Robert Littman. He is the commanding officer of the Starfleet Club in Calgary, the USS King Edward. Next to him is Mike Schmidt. I'm not sure what his allegiances are, but I know he's a huge Star Trek fan.
Yes, my daughter and I have been here 13 years in a row, so this will be our 14th this coming summer.
And he's also appeared in one of the Star Trek fan films as well.
Bonnie, I'm not sure of your last name.
Ellis.
Bonnie Ellis, and I think you all know who Bonnie Ellis is. I don't have to you're part of it.
President
And
of
then
the...
Russell Steep, and Russell does a lot of the MC work here at the conventions. Does the podcast, yeah. And my name is, it mentions Paul Carew, and I'm with an international fan club called the Klingon Assault Crew. And my position with the club is I am the global fleet commander. And what that entails is I'm responsible for the Klingon members outside of North America.
So the reason we're here tonight is to kind of engage the town council in our little project. And the project requires a piece of property to display this wonderful creature, and also some maintenance and stuff that kind of goes along with all that. As far as the construction and all that stuff, Paul and his gang are going to pay for the whole thing. And we may also apply for some government, provincial and federal grant monies, but we haven't got into that. We haven't started crowdfunding. One of the things that I thought would be most important for us is to establish, we would like to confirm with town that they're in support of us placing, this replica will be of the similar size and dimensions as the Enterprise at the entrance of town. Then we're thinking that this ship will be at the other entrance of town or thereabouts, haven't decided, so with your help, we'll kind of come to some place that will be appropriate. And, because a lot of people have said, well, how do we get people to come across the tracks? This will do that. So if people come to see the Enterprise, they'll come to see the Bird of Prey, so we're thinking if we spread it out, we'll get a lot more across town traffic. Paul reassured me that as far as funding this thing, the Klingon Nation would be in full support of it and would be more than happy to fund a project like this. So all we're looking for is a promise that you'll give us a piece of ground to put it on, you look after it, and also that you support it before we go forward with our funding program. Paul?
Okay, and I think I speak for other Star Trekkers other than Klingons. I was once asked in another endeavor I was involved with, how many Klingon fans are there? And that's not a fair question, because Klingon fandom has been around for 30 years. How many people have been involved? How many people have good memories on their involvement with fandom? You look at the number of conventions, and that would be my meter, that are in effect in North America. There are too many to count, and they're very profitable. There's conventions in the United Kingdom, there's conventions in Germany, they've got cruises going on. You know, it's a real industry on its own. So the funding would be like GoFundMe pages, asking people to contribute $1 or $2. And with the grant monies coming in, we think it's more than likely that we'd be able to fund this.
Yeah, we haven't quite come up with a figure yet. We've got a local artist who's gonna be working on it. He's working on putting together what the cost is gonna be. And kind of when we get that together, we feel it'll be a multi-year project, so it's not gonna start until we have the funds in place. But just wanted to make sure that this council and following councils know what this is about, what it's for, so we don't have to repeat.
Where the Nine in Line Art Society comes into play is that we are going to be the resource of where the money comes into. We've been in discussions with ATV, and we'll set up an account. They have a program which is supportive of community endeavors. So there's different ways that account can be set up and money brought in. The idea that we wanted to make sure is that no money associated with the Bird of Prey is contaminated with anything of the art gallery itself, completely separate. One of the reasons why we went to ATV, because it's a different financial institution than what the art gallery is, so it's completely separate. And where I come involved is that I'm the treasurer for the Nine in the Line, so that's where my role would be, is to watching over the funds coming in and the distribution thereof. And it's looking at that this Bird of Prey is in fact a piece of art, much like what the Enterprise is. Okay, it's not a mantelpiece that you sit on your coffee table, but you go to a lot of cities, a lot of communities, and they have very large pieces of art. This is no different. And it would be a drawing card for this community. And that's the reason why we are involved and what we would do.
Okay, any questions for?
Is there like kind of an estimate in terms of how much it's to construct it and put it up at Open-ish?
How much it'll cost?
Yeah.
Not at this time. It's been slow coming to get the model to builder and that kind of stuff. I have a number in my mind, but I'm not even going to mention it because I don't even know if I'm gonna offer.
Makes sense.
George Lee?
Pat, do you have an idea on how big the piece of land has to be for it to sit on?
Well, it'll need to accommodate the spread of the wings, and it'll also need to accommodate like parking, off-road parking.
Right. So do you have a ballpark figure on like,
A bus, like a tourist bus. So if a tourism bus can park near it. then-
No, I think she was
no,
asking
like a
dimension,
half an
50
acre?
by 50 or 100 by 100 or,
Like
you
the
know.
size of the land that you're
The
gonna
land
want
that
for
How
it?
much turf do they want?
Well, how much turf does the Enterprise have?
Yeah, well, but again, you know, it's a little different
Yeah,
design, and, because I mean, it's more, you know, circular and long. This one here is more, you know, I guess theoretically a circular device.
yeah.
The only other issue we're gonna have, which doesn't happen to a lot of different groups, is that we're probably gonna have to get some engineering done.
I was afraid you were gonna say that.
Well, because we're a municipality, I mean, even the one that's down there, we have a major chunk of concrete underneath it, because, you know,
I realize that, and I got the whole story on the call.
yeah, okay, so, you know, but just because, you know,
Yeah.
some people don't understand it, that it also has a wind, you know, it has a tendency that it might wanna fly. You know,
It has a 0 wing. It won't fly, but anyway.
no, but it does. I mean, you take a piece of paper in a windstorm that we've had, I mean, next thing you know, it's in Saskatchewan, so,
Yeah.
you know,
And
as
we
a,
don't wanna share artifacts with Saskatchewan
no,
at this time.
as a municipality, we're gonna be forced to
Yeah,
do
no, I realize
a
that.
little bit of engineering on it, so, I
We
mean,
will
there's,
get weight and balance and sizes once we kind of formulate dimensions. As it is now, the builder just kind of got a look at it, we've got blueprints from the original drawing. We'll start to formulate this and we'll keep you apprised as to how.
and then the other issue we'll have is CBS approval.
My understanding is because this is a work of art, it falls outside its
Um,
domain.
Our last two haven't, so I would think that we're probably gonna find that we're gonna have to ask for permission. We'll probably ask for permission instead of forgiveness, because of what we are as a municipality. We have CBS licensing, so we find that it's easier to ask.
With CBS is when we're making money from,
Doesn't, no,
No.
sorry, even if we do our, you know, the logo that we have to get it approved.
okay,
You know, anything that we do that potentially has anything to do with,
okay, so,
I'm not saying that it's an impossibility, I'm just saying that it's something that might have been overlooked, because the original one was overlooked for a period of time, and
then it got looked at.
it got looked at.
Got looked at when they put the franchise agreement
Yeah.
together.
Okay.
So they came in and they saw what we had, and then they,
Okay,
you know, so, I mean, again, you know, but anyway, some of those are the areas that potentially you're gonna have to,
okay,
or I shouldn't say you know,
collectively, we.
collectively, it'll have to be addressed.
Well, we'll keep in touch with Kim and keep apprised, and he can spread the word as to our progress and how this is going. We don't know how fast this is gonna come together. I don't know what the cost of it's gonna be. So we're taking baby steps.
Okay.
Definitely a multi-year plan, and what we're looking for initially is just your nod of approval. That's not a bad idea, and that those issues that, the concerns that you raised are addressed, that it's not gonna be a problem for yourselves or people down the road from you. So that's the reason why we came.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate it too, you know, because, I mean, you know, we always want to see, you know, moving forward in our direction of our branding of our community, and I think this is another asset to our community. So again, you know, most of us hadn't heard much about it, so, or some of us haven't heard much about it, so.
Well, I kept the cat in the box,
Well,
but today's the big reveal, so.
oh, okay. No, we appreciate that. So, I mean, you know, we'll discuss it definitely, and we'll come up with some suggestions on locations, and it is on the agenda for later. You're welcome to stay if you want, and
We did 15 minutes?
You're just about right now, you're, got a minute
So you
left.
get to stay if we want to listen to the discussion.
If you want, or else you can go on YouTube or go home and
See if the live stream's
see
working.
if, yeah, you can phone us and let us know whether we really are a live stream. But anyway, no,
We appreciate you being in our audience for this presentation.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
and we appreciate you taking, no,
Yes.
but
Sorry, just really, too quick. As a quick aside, I mean, thank you guys especially for coming out from Calgary. And it's really, really amazing to have that kind of engagement in the community and the ideas and support that is. That's really fantastic.
Glad you noticed that, and that's what we asked them for, was just to show we do have a full support. This is just not even a thumbnail of the backing that we have for this
Well,
project
that's
outside.
pretty incredible. Like, not many community projects have something like that.
And I only told them about it on Friday.
Oh, even better.
So,
Just out of curiosity, like I know with the Starship currently, they have like the cutouts kind of where you can do pictures and stuff like that. Are you guys planning on having some of the sort of same sort of thing, sort of that draw to and a little bit interactive, or?
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, and we'll be working with Kim on that, because the first project that went through didn't have the sustainability that this one does, and I think Kim had a lot to do with getting that done properly, so absolutely.
Thank you.
you have comments, sorry?
I just wanted to say that part of the reason why we all came out here was because we're from outside of the community, but we wanted to show how much support you have outside of the community and how much we're willing to do whatever we can to help you. That's why I came out and I worked for the Tourism Society, or Tourism Education Center for 2 summers on the weekends, in addition to my normal Monday to Friday job, because we see the potential of what this community has to offer with regards to tourism, and we want to see it expand and become something that can put this place on the map.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
If I can just add to that, yeah, Vulcan has a special place in our hearts as well for the way you've embraced the Star Trek franchise that we love so much. And I know that as I've gone to conventions down in Vegas or talked to my Star Trek friends around the globe, I tell them all, you've got to come out to Vulcan at least once in your life.
Well, Leonard Nimoy made it, so.
That's right.
All right, well, thank you very much for taking the time to come, and like I said, you're welcome to stay right to the end.
Thank you very much. I'll consult my,
Yeah.
gonna get back to you.
Yeah, and again, if you don't, that's fine too, we appreciate you coming.
Very good, thanks for listening to us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll move on to our second delegation, Geo Studies Studios, Workplace and Creation, so the floor is yours. Again, you have 15 minutes.
So the presentation will be on behind you as you want me to move through the slides.
Oh, wonderful.
Just give me a nod and I'll put them through.
Okay, all right, perfect. All right, well, first of all, I'd like to express my appreciation for allowing me to come here and speak to you today. It's a very interesting option I think I have available to present to the town of Vulcan. I'm eager to find out what you think of the idea. But first, a little bit about me. After multiple careers in construction and home design, I was ready to embark on something new. Geo Studios was started with a love of unique architecture, a passion for woodworking, and a desire to create something not only functional but artistic. So in November 2016, I started Geo Studios. Since then, I built 4 tiny backyard geodesic dome structures, 3 in Lethbridge and 1 in the campground south of Fort Macleod. My objective is to deliver usable geodesic domes with a minimal environmental footprint to people who want to extend their living spaces for purposes of business, pleasure, family function, or personal renewal. 3. Let's start with the basics. Geodesic domes are complex structures relying on mathematical models to create a sphere using regular construction materials, 2x4s, plywood, that sort of thing. They were patented by Buckminster Fuller in 1954. They have greater snow load capacity because the weight of the load is distributed to multiple bearing points below. You can think of an egg, for example. If there was a square created with the same material as an eggshell, well, obviously the egg would be much stronger. They're more space efficient because as you approach a rounder shape, the ratio of inside space to outside perimeter improves. And because the dome is approaching the shape of a sphere, air moves around the dome. So think of a cardboard box on a windy day, it's gonna blow right across the street, but you take a ball with the same volume and that ball isn't gonna move very much at all. If you've seen a typical postcard picture of the Vancouver skyline, you may have noticed what some locals there will call the golf ball. Well, that's the Vancouver Science Center. It's a geodesic dome. And if you want to date yourself, you'll remember Expo 67, they had the US Pavilion, which was also a geodesic dome. And if you go to Epcot Center in Florida, it's a full sphere geodesic dome. These are commonly depicted in pop culture as well as in real life as examples of futuristic technological structures. Now, geodesic domes are also versatile with many potential uses. Among many, GeoStudios now manufactures a off-grid camping dome, the one as I mentioned near Fort Macleod. That's the one on the very right, the brown and white one. As of last September, no presentation will go without mentioning that GeoStudios won the Tiny House competition, the micro home competition in Calgary that was sponsored by Grow Calgary in September. This tiny house is available for display in Lethbridge. And as many have stated, I noted, the woman who came into the dome during the event often said, "Oh, this is cute." The guys, as she said, it's much bigger on the inside than it seemed on the outside. The ceiling height is about 9.5 feet, so it certainly feels like it's got a lot of room in only an 84 square foot structure. You'll see also that by the middle picture, there were at least 10 people in the dome at the time, quite comfortably sitting and standing. So let's get to the reason I'm here today. It would be an understatement to say that Vulcan is merely unique with regards to rural Alberta. Here she is sitting smack dab in the middle of agriculturally based economy, promoting a theme and ideas that are more in tune with Vancouver Science Centre than with Alberta farming. What you've done here, I think, is pretty impressive. And I am cognizant of the fact that quite likely 35 or 40 years ago when this idea surfaced, it might have caused some division in the community. However, kudos to you for your persistence and courage to move ahead, not just in overcoming the inertia that is inherent in a new idea, but in the fact that it was done in a small Western Canadian prairie town. And the benefits of boldly going where no small prairie town has gone before are becoming evident. Aside from tourism to the area, you are moving in a direction that perfectly meshes with technological advancement. You now have a head start in a very important arena. Today in 2019, Vulcan stands as a forward-thinking community ready to expand the theme of moving into the 21st century. The tourist center is certainly an eye-catcher, but the little things that impressed me about Vulcan coming in was the futuristic light standards, the unique street signs, the little emblems on the jacket, and the number of businesses who are participating and endorsing in the Star Trek theme. The spirit is notable. What a wonderful feature you have in the solar park as well. This was obviously created to blend with the idea of a new technology. It is well positioned, close to downtown, and only one block from the track station. Now, as an amateur urban planner, I love to study places and try to figure out what makes a space tick, what makes people gravitate to the area, what would draw people in. A space like the solar park does seem to need a complementary feature, something that would add value, something to complete the package, as it were. Well, let's take a moment to consider a geodesic dome. The first and most obvious thing is that it will enhance the existing science and tourism element. Geodesic domes are attractive and one of a kind. It's not necessary to be a dome like the ones in Vancouver, Montreal, where they are glassy and almost monolithic and so large, but a smaller dome here in Vulcan would be unique among domes anywhere. A geodesic dome would help Vulcan maintain its status as the leading edge of scientific achievement in rural Alberta, a position you can't take for granted in this day and age of fast-moving technology. Long-time Trekkies will appreciate the upgrade. New Trekkies will have another reason to come back. A GeoStudios dome in the solar park would also have multiple applications, whether on a hot summer day or a January winter evening. A bit more on that later. A dome would have an educational component as well. As mentioned, it's based on multiple mathematical calculations to simulate a sphere. When it comes to engineering, Buckminster Fuller was no slouch. The reason why domes have not taken off to this day is somewhat due to their complexity. Education in this may very well expand for college and university students. You'll be able to see this dome from the highway, and it will act as a landmark to downtown visitors. It's a tiny but noticeable destination location. I'm sure many tourists who come to Vulcan get to the Starship Enterprise photo op, and with a dome, this would lure them in one block closer, obviously closer to downtown. I don't need to expand on that one. Another reason to place a dome close to downtown is it creates a statement to not only tourists but to new businesses contemplating Vulcan as a viable destination. So introducing the Geodome, I could put this poster up here or up there, might be better, where more people can see it.
Sure.
Right now, already. So this one here, just like that. Okay, so now this is obviously not a full sphere geodesic dome, and that isn't its intent, but it provides an easily understood function. We can call it a picnic shelter. But a little vision takes us a long way. For now, I'd like to quickly go over a few features. First, it would act as a protection from the prevailing winds. Its orientation is important. I understand the prevailing winds here are from the west, but I'm not sure. I've spoken to a few people, and I don't know if it's not unanimous, but there are winds, and it's probably a good idea to shelter from the wind, put the back edge up against the wind. If not, there's little modifications we can do on that. Many domes you see on the internet are made with PVC pipes or metal tubing. GeoStudios creates its domes out of regular 2x lumber. This one would have 2x6 cedar framing visible from the inside. Cedar is a material commonly associated with outdoor structures. The exterior colors will have to be decided as well by your committee. They could be yellow, could be white, could be multiple colors. While I'm biased, having seen how colorful and easily seen from the highway would be my personal choice. Geodesic domes easily blend into almost any environment, and this structure would provide a good opportunity to complement it with landscaping, say xeriscaping, that is waterless landscaping of the Japanese garden variety, or drip irrigation. That sort around that dome is totally appropriate. Again, you'll have an opportunity to make those decisions. This dome has been sized to easily seat 20 adults, perfect for most classroom sizes, meetings for nonprofit groups, sing-alongs, and more. Note this is the inside only. Extra seats for those that come by during an event or a talk can sit outside the dome as well. There will be a need for electricity. We don't need to ask where that power will come from. I recommend donor plaques. I believe it's important to acknowledge those people who helped make this happen. Local contributing organizations and individuals should be recognized, and how they are placed is yours to decide, whether put into the concrete base or inside the dome itself. By matching the existing Trek station, we will provide a steeple on top of the dome. This will provide a simple visual cue for visitors. 11. There would be many uses for the dome, some of which would include, well, the lunchtime crowd close to downtown, since there's seating for a number of people and or groups. Public talks and seminars for Trekkies as well as for Vulcan-based groups, nonprofit or otherwise. Be a great kids' entertainment center for whether it's puppet shows or storytelling. A dome has a greater sound resonance, so it would draw attention to musicians. A downtown band shell would be very popular to residents and visitors alike. If it was free and voluntary, the opportunities for spontaneous events such as drumming circles or jamming would make it a sure place of interest. People can sit on the outside benches and still feel like they're part of what's going on inside. Astronomers using the shelter at nights can create a viewing location. This would allow members of the public to drop in and participate as well. High school or elementary school trips, education in solar applications and in building science are definitely evident, not to mention irrigation techniques quite possibly. And we know seniors enjoy a walk outdoors. It would be great to have a destination space where they can sit and have a coffee and climb. Even in winter, this can be a great venue for Christmas train viewing. So, to wrap up, when you're in a tourist town, it is part of your mandate to be unique. The Vulcan Geodome would not only be a positive contribution to the theme that Vulcan has promoted, it would be a contribution to the everyday lives of the residents of Vulcan. Of course, you can name it whatever you like. You can hold a name the dome contest or create a marketing group to name it. But on the basic level, a geodesic dome screams technically advanced, and it's no longer just science fiction. I urge you to continue to explore new ideas, to investigate new opportunities, and to go where no town has gone before. And remember the words of Winston Churchill, a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, an optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Thanks for your ears.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
What would be the land area that would be required for?
We're looking at about 24 feet across and a little bit more in length. The back side the dome actually is a decagon, 10-sided, and I'd like to match at least the back part of the concrete base to match the floor angles, and then coming to the front, curve into more of an oval.
And so for something like this, what would be the approximate cost of?
With these features, we're not even touching 45,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions, or? You're stuck on using cedar, are you?
Well, I'm not stuck on using cedar. I like cedar personally, and my domes have been made with 2x lumber, so that's where my experience comes from. They certainly could be steel as well, but I haven't measured the costs on that. I have an engineer who has approved this as it is, and he'd be willing to help me with it.
Cedar is certainly very weather resistant.
Yes, and if it's on the inside, I think it's pretty safe. Yeah, it would last years.
And it's
and
a
years.
beautiful wood to look at.
I love it. Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts or questions, or? Well, thank you very much for thinking of our community, and we will definitely give it some thought and have administration get back to you on your proposal. Yeah,
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Great, thank you, and everyone's welcome to stay if you wish. If you want to leave, that's up to you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So we'll move on to correspondence, 5-1. Pardon? No? Okay, we'll move on to 5-1, Ag for Life. Any questions on this request? Here, this one here, we should probably send it to the Ag Society and see if it's something that they would like to support.
Have we supported this one in the past?
Not that I know of. You used to support something, wasn't it, rural, I can't remember what it was called.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, I can't
There's a
remember.
number of them out there.
Yeah,
Your motion to forward it to the Ag
I would think, okay, George, you moves out. I think it'd be a good move to see if there's any other groups that would. Any question on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving on to the requests from the Minister of Senior Services Awards. Did we forward this on to anybody yet, or? This might be another one that we might wanna send on to the
The senior center.
senior center and see if they know of somebody that would be a potential candidate.
Motion.
Oh, thank you.
I think of several. And I'm sure you can as well.
Yeah, no, I just thought there might be a group that can think outside the box sometimes too. And I mean, if anybody has anybody that they can think of, definitely we can
Bring it forward.
Bring it forward. So the deadline's February 28th, which is fast approaching, but yet it's still quite a ways away. So, okay, so Paul moves that we forward this on to the seniors. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, the next one is the draft IMPD. So we have a couple people here for it, or at least one.
Ian.
So if you wanna come up in and,
Just gonna kind of sit to the side, because I think, can't you put the document up there?
I will, it's just loading as we speak.
yeah, it takes a little bit to load it live. I imagine everybody's probably had a chance to read it at least twice. I only read it once, but
3 times.
I haven't had my chance to read it the second go around yet, so.
I can, well, I can give like, as an introduction while it's loading up there, just to
Yeah,
keep
go
things
ahead,
moving, because
please.
you guys got a lot of people here tonight and a lot of things to talk about. All municipalities now in the province are required to create what they call an intermunicipal development plan, which is a plan to look toward the future as far as development along the fringe where two municipalities meet along that common boundary. This project started about a year ago. Kim, maybe you can just, I can't remember this, I think it's all funded, we got grants for all our members.
Yeah, we used the ACP grant with the county.
Yeah.
And that funded, because the county has to do it with all of the villages, so.
Yeah, we've got somebody in the village, wanted to make sure on that, yeah, so it's a funded project through a grant, and it started, like I said, about a year ago. There was a committee that was formed with representation from the town, representation from the county. We met on several occasions, and the reason I'm here tonight is just to give you an update, just maybe a couple of highlights on the plan itself. And we will be having a public meeting on January the 30th to try to get more public input than we have. We had it on the website, we've had a survey out, we have given some effort already to get some feedback. We've had some feedback, but not a lot, but like I say, we're gonna have a public meeting on January the 30th. So I thought, like I say, I thought I would highlight just a couple of things on the plan, and I won't take a lot of your time, like I said. So maybe we'll just start with the, Kim, if we just bring up the table of contents, and I will just kind of motor through that rather than go through parts of the document itself. It's kind of a different plan in the sense that it's guided or dictated by the MGA. It tells about what components it should have, and what it really focuses on is how we're going to cooperate with our neighbor, and if there is a dispute or an issue, how is it resolved. So basically the introduction is just, again, like I said, just talking about the plan itself. Then we tried in part 2 was to identify what we thought were common issues or issues that are shared between the county and the town. We did some background analysis for the issues in both municipalities. Like I said, the MGA talks about quite a bit about the administration of the plan, how we're going to form a committee or a mechanism to deal with issues. One of the things I want to talk about is we do identify how the committee or how the representation is going to be between the county and the town, and we've identified or we've suggested one elected official from each municipality, and the number of people then that deal with that particular issue will depend on what the issue is. If it's a transportation issue or something related to public works, then you invite the staff that's appropriate to comment on that particular issue. And then it goes through the mechanism, like I say, of referring the issues to the committee and resolving them. The other thing, I guess there's just 2 other things I'm going to highlight in the interest of time, and that is CFOs. We had many discussions around those about how far we would keep them within proximity to the town, and we agreed on, or we suggested, probably about a 3-mile buffer around the perimeter of the town that would prohibit CFOs. The other thing I want to comment on is that quite often in these plans, because it's at the boundary of an urban area and a more rural area, quite often they talk about annexation. We didn't focus on annexation for the simple reason that in the MDP, there's discussion that's identified that we have a significant amount of vacant land available in the town itself. Unfortunately, a lot of it's not serviced, but the land is available. So there's no need to talk about annexation, or we didn't think that there was. What we did is we took kind of a different approach, and that is we call them opportunity areas. And we looked at different areas where on the other side of the highway that might have some opportunities for development. It could be unique circumstances. Somebody might combine with deep pockets and with a project that they're very interested in bringing to the area. And we talked about a few other areas around the town that we've identified as opportunity areas. There's one that's on the southwest part of just on the other side of the highway, that there has been interest in developing that, or some inquiries at one time, apparently a number of years back, but nothing materialized. And there's a possibility, or the way we just approached it in the plan was that there's a possibility there, possibly some kind of a joint project might develop with the county and the town. So the plan itself, like I say, does not focus on annexation. It's not the focus of the plan, but it kind of sets the stage about if certain things were to happen around the perimeter. We've identified some opportunity areas, and we've identified some policies about what we thought on both parties that we kind of had our interests as far as around the perimeter. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Like I said, the other important thing is that we have a meeting scheduled for January 30th, and after that, depending if we get interest or comments on that, we will continue to try to finalize the plan. Can I just scroll back up for you, or maybe I should just really discuss these opportunity areas. The one I was talking about is this area here, Area 2. It's my understanding from my co-worker Gavin that there was discussions or proposals at one time on that property. They didn't materialize. But it's a kind of a, how can I say, key piece of property in the interest of both the county and the town. The other ones on the other side where the former landfill and the lagoons were there. There's how can I say, challenges or obstacles. The one that we have where the cursor is right now, Opportunity Area 3, we've identified that area because we have some land that's tied up now that was formerly just in the interest of residential, but we have the solar project, so depending if the market should change or whatnot, we would probably look at that area to the south because it has more potential for residential development. The stuff that we've identified in the north is more long-term. If there's ever expansions on the airport, obviously for the pathway and things like that. And the one just immediately to the east of that, that's again more future talks, and that's thinking about if the industrial lands do get developed in the areas just south of that or the north end of the town, that would be a candidate area for further industrial development. So that's kind of a Reader's Digest version of those opportunity areas. And we had to submit this to the Alberta Transportation, so what we did, we put in some just basic street network. The one, if you scroll back up right there, Ken, let's go just a bit higher, no, the other direction, sorry. We try to kind of where the cursor is there, we tried to have like a suggestion about a service road, and it widens out in this area, or it gets wider here because there are existing buildings along this area, but brought it out like that, or suggested that, because sometimes on those service roads they will have commercial development on both sides. So that's why we did that, and the rest of it we just tried to connect it with some of the major roads or the existing roads. We put network in the areas to the south as well. And again, just kept it very basic, but the reason again that we had to do that, it's more of a placeholder because this has to be circulated to Alberta Transportation. They'll probably want to see where we're getting our ingress, egress, or intersections there. So, I think in the interest of time, like I say, you guys are pretty busy, I just wanted to touch or highlight on a few things.
So when you took that map of the roadways and the removals and for the service road and that, did you take it from that plan that was done about 8-10 years ago then, or is that?
Yes, yeah, there's
Okay. From
transportation.
transportation.
A combination of that and the MVP.
Yeah, okay.
How hard and fast are those eliminating of intersections?
Which,
The red dots there.
we kind of toyed with that because we're on the premise that once it's submitted to Alberta Transportation, they would frown upon these two points of entry right here.
Yeah.
So that would probably be dropped down to one. Again, we were just giving our ideas about, you have a private, kind of a right-of-way here. How will we connect? This is now a public road up to this point of the curve here. So again, this is just a suggestion that we could push this through and eliminate this entrance here and eliminate that part of that right-of-way.
My concern was more around the hospital and the arena, in that area.
Those were all addressed in that original plan though.
Okay.
This one, and they've already been addressed by Alberta Transportation, so they're not new. They might be not favorable by us or the county, but they're not new.
They're existing, we put them on the map more like placeholders or people would be able to identify.
One of the things that it should be brought up in is we did identify that it was identified that First Avenue, that one has been eliminated from this draft.
Right.
The one on First Avenue right here.
Right.
Because Alberta Transportation was fine with that intersection staying. That came up in our last committee.
Right, yeah.
And sorry, where is the meeting on the 30th?
The Legion.
Legion, yeah. What's the time on that? I think it's 4 o'clock.
4 to 7, I
4 to
believe.
7.
We'll get the information when, I believe, Ryan's finalizing that with the county, is he not?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you had any input, very much input so far from,
For the general public?
yeah,
Not a lot, like I said, we had it on the website with an email address, and we did a survey, we did a questionnaire, and we had, I don't know, okay response, but.
yeah. No, I know that once we have the public hearing or a public meeting, then hopefully it'll, potentially if there's concerns or questions, that'll be when they'll come to have addressed.
I think the audience in this would be more selective than the MDP, because most people that are interested are gonna be around the perimeter, whereas the MDP addresses the entire town.
Right.
So I think we have a more targeted audience with this particular plan. So we'll see how that affects the turnout.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions? Well, everybody's had an opportunity to view it and, it's, you get a chance to read it over a few more times if you need it, and if you have questions, I guess it can either be addressed through Kim or Nancy, or I guess, and if not, I guess we'll see you at the meeting on the.
Yeah, I'd say everybody's certainly welcome at the public meeting, and if you guys have any concerns or questions, we can either address them that night or we will address them before it comes to first reading.
Okay, yeah, and you did brief the, or it hasn't come to NPC yet, or this copy of this? Okay,
No, but one of the members that was on the committee is a member of the NPC.
Right,
so
yeah,
they've
yeah.
had involvement.
yeah, no, that's good, I just didn't know whether they had a
review
of it yet or not.
Not yet, no.
It might be something we should consider,
They have a meeting coming up.
that we could share it with them.
Oh, you canceled it, okay. But Yeah, we can send it out to them.
Well, I mean, it's just that, you know, they're another group that, you know,
For sure.
takes a look at stuff from a different angle too for us, so,
Yeah.
it might not hurt for them to, you know, get a kick at, to read it over a couple times before the meeting if they so desire, and I assume the county probably has had the same thing too, as they've had a chance to,
They're reviewing it on Wednesday.
oh, okay.
I think the important thing is to, like you said, give a valiant effort to try to keep everybody involved. Like you say, it's not a plan that affects the entire town. The audience is a bit more targeted, but I still think it's good to have a good effort to be all inclusive.
Yeah. Okay, no other questions? Well, thank you very much for driving up, and have a safe trip home.
Great, no problem.
And again, if you don't want, can't sleep, you can still stay here a little longer if you want, and welcome to stay if you want. Okay, so somebody wish to move that we file the correspondence? Bob? Any questions on Lyle's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to the bylaw, policy E04, dog licensing amendment. Any questions on the amendment? All they're really doing is adding the 2.2 or
One of the reasons this was brought up is there's been more and more registrations of service dogs, but without paperwork. So a true service dog gets its designation from the province, and they get a card that comes with. And this allows, we didn't have anything written in our policy on what qualified a service dog. So this just meets the provincial regulations.
sorry.
Just when it's talking about service dogs, I mean, you hear on the news about different types of service animals. Is this encompass them all? What is does everyone have to go through to get a tag for it to be a service animal, not just?
Yeah, this eliminates the outside stuff that they have to have the certification from the provincial government or the state or province from where they came. So if a dog is registered as a service dog in the States and the resident moves here, then we can use that for them. Because they also have to transfer that to Alberta. It's like a license that's carried for service dogs. It was a way of identifying it because there's a lot of companion animals that are being covered now, and they're not truly trained as service dogs. So that wasn't the intent of when it was put in the bylaw. Service dogs were eight animals.
Any other questions on this additions, the 2.2? Or explanation on 2.2?
Awesome.
Okay, George Lee moves the amendment to policy E04. Any question on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to the Vulcan County Tourism Trade Fair Planning Committee appointment. This was the one that we, administration sent it out prior to Christmas and asked everybody's opinion, and Lyle put his name forward, and so now we just have to make a motion to appoint Lyle to this committee. Okay, Paul moves the appointment to Lyle to this position. Any questions on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, capital equipment mower replacement. Any questions on the request to replace the mower? It is a,
Yeah, well, you have it in capital reserve. We budgeted $7,000 for the replacement. You can see from the pricing that came in, we're gonna be under that by about $1,000. So Stu's recommendation was to replace with the 2019 Truck Cadet Pro Z.
So is that Carman that's given the $3,000 trade-in?
Yes. Yes, so that's why the recommendation is to, for, not only does council have to give a motion to purchase, you also have to give a motion to dispose of an old piece of equipment, so we're gonna dispose it as a trade-in.
And then we also have to designate where it comes from, I guess, too,
Yeah,
not just listed in the motion.
Yeah, funds to purchase can be drawn from the capital services capital reserve, not to exceed.
Also,
Okay.
the recorder.
Motion as recommended.
Any question on George's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, 7.3, birds of prey. Any questions on,
I just had some people ask me about it, and I found it odd, but it's people I respect, so I brought it up anyways. He said, isn't Star Trek, isn't that dying off? And I thought, well, hey, I'm a Star Wars fan, that keeps on coming back. I'm on season 3 of the original Star Trek series on Netflix. And to see the support that we've got here today, I think that says a lot for how strong Star Trek still is. So that's just something I wanted to bring up.
and obviously they haven't taken a look at much of the facts because Star Trek is probably one of the largest growing science fiction slash thing in the world. There are more, they outnumber the Star Wars 100 to 1.
If I may,
Sorry.
no, if I may speak
No,
to Lyle's
sorry,
comment.
can't, sorry. You want later, that's fine, but anyway. But, so I think that the recommendation is that we support this in principle, and that,
Do you want to read the motion?
yeah, you can read the
So
motion.
we made a recommendation based on a proposal from Bonnie with the support from 9 and 9 Society. Council supports proposed Star Trek based art installation and directs administration to have the community service manager and the Vulcan Tourism Committee coordinate with the 9 and 9 Art Society and the Ad hoc Bird of Prey group to bring back a formal proposal including location, funding requirements, and project timelines.
Now, go ahead. Do you have a question or?
I was gonna say I would like to
Oh gosh, Star Trek.
Star Wars gotta make a Star Trek motion.
No,
try
okay.
to bring
thank-
peace to the galaxy.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Bob. Now, if anyone has any suggestions on this location, I think that it's only pertinent that you bring it forward to administration so that they can, take a look at this. I think
The accommodation for traffic's gonna be the hardest.
the thoughts on the proposal for putting it in a different location than what we have. We also have concerns that'll come from Alberta Transportation when we pick a location. I'm not sure if we'd ever get another location as close to the highway as what we got with the last one, because of transportation's philosophies of widening and potential widening in the next 150,000 years. So you have to take a look at all those factors when you kind of pick a location, is that sometimes, we have factors, so I think if you've got any ideas, definitely bring them forward and suggest them to Kim or, Bonnie or the group, and they can use those suggestions, and then we can come up with a more firm location when we know the dimensions that they might anticipate for the ship itself. And also I was told that the Klingons have a method of cloaking, so it makes the ship invisible. So if we just put a pole out there somewhere and said, this is the location. That was one of the suggestions that someone made. But anyway, I think that it's a great proposal for our community, and I think that if you have any suggestions, so, does somebody wish to, Lyle moved this, does anybody else wish to just put anything else forward? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to 7.4, which is the Recreation Community Committee appointment. This is that new one.
No, this isn't just a vacant position on the recreation.
No, this is the new one that was added to our agenda for tonight. Sorry. And so if you might not have felt that you had a chance to read it or see it, but anyway, it's here. It's a position that's been vacant for a period of time. And we have a member that is suggesting that they'd like to let their name stand, and the committee is recommending that they be appointed for 1 year. Okay, Paul moves that we appoint Lowell Kristolovich. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 8.1. Any questions on the Old Man River Regional Planning Commission's September 6th meeting? Okay, 8.2, the Canadian Badlands. Any questions on that one? Okay, moving on to number 3, the Vulcan County Airport Committee meeting. Any questions on that one? Okay, hearing none, somebody wish to... Okay, George Lee moves the file 818283 for information. Any question on George Lee's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to reports. Mr. Taylor.
I was at the airport one, which you have. I was also at the MPC, and the standout on MPC was the denial of a waiver. And I was also with, as we'll recall, emergency management, of course. I was at the SEWA meeting, which I found very encouraging. And on Friday was at the memorial for Jim Pearson up in Drumheller. He was one of the people who helped design the Enterprise. And if you want to fly there, I would recommend PWA. Pat Weisner Airlines. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Paul?
Well, was there much of a Star Trek turnout for that?
There was quite a good turnout, and even we got the Klingon warrior howl to send the warrior off onto the stars. But one of the things I did notice when I was up there is, and I didn't go through Drumheller a lot, all these dinosaurs all over the place. They've obviously embraced the concept of that museum and dinosaur civilization or whatever they have there. So it's appropriate that we embrace the Star Trek.
Okay, any questions for Paul? Okay, move on, George Lee.
I had no meetings, but I was at the emergency management on the Wednesday, Thursday. I'm glad I passed because I would not do it again. That was a really hard course.
Try the 400.
No, I was having trouble with the 2.
I know.
So, and I just for information, I help out every year at the food bank in that pack in the Hamper Center Christmas time. This year during the Christmas and New Year's, or Christmas and January, after January break, the freezers went down. So they lost 17 turkeys and a whole case of beef, plus everything else that was in the freezer. I know we put a new alarm system in the freezer and the cooler was supposed to be wired into an alarm system that goes on if it goes down. And somehow that didn't work, nobody noticed it till it was probably the first of the second week in January when we stopped in just to see.
So they don't have anybody that checks it on a daily basis when they're closed?
You know, so there will be a FCSS meeting the end of this month, so we'll see why they're not wired in or hooked up or something.
Yeah, it's disappointing, isn't it?
It was disappointing. And that's all I have.
Okay, any Director Marshall?
Sorry, it was 17 turkeys and how much?
A case of beef. We haven't got the exact weight of what everything was yet. And and the other things that was in the freezer, like there was, like frozen vegetables and stuff like that you keep in the freezer. And that it all got lost. Yeah.
Yeah, sad.
Just an observation, most insurance companies say if you're going away on holidays, they want somebody to check the house every 2 or 3 days.
Mhm.
Why should FCSS be any different?
I have no idea.
Well, it'd be a good thing for the board to discuss, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
But you take that point back to them.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah, anything else for George Lee? Thank you. Wow.
And I attended the airport committee meeting like Paul, and as well as the MPC like Paul, and the ICS 200 like Paul.
So you and Paul are buddies?
Apparently.
Save on travel.
Any questions for Lyle and Paul?
Did you go to the funeral?
No.
Poor Paul.
I was the only passenger.
Okay. Okay, moving on to Ms. Thomas.
I haven't had any meetings, but library's been working on the plan of service over email for the last 2 or 3 weeks. We had a pause over the Christmas break. ICS 200, and just as a note, I got the email for the Badlands Convention this year, which is February 11th to 13th in Kamloops.
Is that a different one?
I don't know. Because the last one was in March.
If I would do that, it might be a different one.
Okay.
I'll check.
Okay.
Okay,
That's it.
any questions for?
Are you going to the convention?
It depends. If it's a different one, probably not. I would like to go. It was very interesting last year. Learned a lot.
Last year was, we had really, really incredible resources and
Yeah. And it was in Medicine Hat last year.
And when was it again?
This one's February 11th to 13th, but last year it was in March. So I don't know.
So if you want to go, we need to make a motion.
Oh, there's another meeting. We have a meeting at the end of January,
okay.
so you can get your information together, we can bring
Yeah.
it to the meeting in January.
Sounds good.
Okay. No further questions, we'll move on to Michelle.
I was able to make it to one day to the ICS 200 course, and I'll be doing the other online. December 12th, 16th, and 19th, all had chamber meetings, and including the family skate event that went really well. There was really good attendance. That was really awesome, and a lot of support from the town, so that was really great to see. And then the regular board meetings. And then victim services, same thing, we had 2 regular meetings, and then the Christmas party. And the BCCR elder abuse was on the 18th, and then again tomorrow. And right now it's kind of focusing on the funding and the practical structure for communication channels and the actual managing agencies and personnel that'll kind of start in terms of boots on the ground. and laying out all the organizational structure part of it. So it's kind of exciting, it's kind of really coming together. It's been a lot of hard work, but we're really fortunate. The facilitator Ruth Mueller is just a really, really talented and very, very knowledgeable gal. So she's helped us leaps and bounds. And then December 13th, I was at South Grow in Lethbridge. A lot of that was based on the big movement and trend with plant-based protein projects. There's actually quite a bit going on in southern Alberta right now. So that's actually pretty exciting. There's a lot of opportunities for growth with that and development, and so that was really encouraging. Then they went over their yearly goals and that kind of thing. And then also, kind of, this isn't specifically Tank Committee, but one thing that was brought up elsewhere is for societies and charitable organizations that rely on the AGLC casino funds. AGLC is doing a survey to see if they should have casinos run by paid union workers rather than volunteers. This would drastically decrease the funding our nonprofit organizations receive every 3 years. Numbers being talked about 10 to 20% of what they would receive now. And having your organization or nonprofit society casino chair email your say at aglc.ca and ask to participate in the AGLC Charitable Gaming Model Survey by January 18th. The survey must then be completed by February 8th, and the survey is worded tricky, so later on it'll be a little bit more advice coming out. But as sort of example, like Paul came with me earlier on, or I guess last year, to Victim Services Casino. And I mean, that one night of our volunteering was Victim Services funding for the following 3 years. That's basically our main contribution. And on average, it's about between 40 to 44,000 for the nonprofits because they average it out. So I know a lot of nonprofits, that is like a make or break funding source. So anybody that is involved with nonprofits for communities or community groups, just maybe something to think about or to look at, because it looks like it's going to have a really big impact. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, any questions for Michelle?
Well, just a comment, you can't afford to lose 20%.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's so many community groups are in the same place where, like, they're talking about only receiving 10 to 20% of what we do now. So that's cutting it by 80 to 90%, and that's, you know, like I know the daycare is coming up here pretty quick to do their lottery, and it's already, you know, especially when you only get it every 2 to 3 years because the wait lists are that long, you know, like it's crucial. So it's a pretty big deal with it going on. It's a bit nerve-wracking. So the more people that get involved and write to AGLC and participate in the survey, hopefully the bigger voice that we'll have, especially the rural smaller groups, that it depends on that for funding, for existence. So
What was that email address?
your say,
Yeah.
like YOURSAY, at aglc.ca.
Got it right.
So absolutely pass on to anybody that might be able to find some use for it and have a voice.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, moving on to me, I guess. I had Mayors and Reeves. They had a delegation, it was a lady that came from the electric car movement. They're trying to put chargers all the way across Highway 3 virtually. And it really isn't totally that way. It started off as South Grow and Southwest group, and then Lethbridge joined in, Medicine Hat joined in, and then the City of Calgary joined into this group to fund putting in chargers. There are 3 different types of chargers, stations, like something similar to ours, but these newer ones they'll track how often people charge and for how long. So they're going to put in, I think it's 25 charging sites across the southern part and from Canmore down into Calgary. and like I said, it was funded through grants and these groups. And Carmody is supposedly getting a site. I'm not sure exactly, they want it on municipal land if they can, because that way then they don't have to deal with a customer, you know, selling out to somebody else, and now all of a sudden, you know, what do they do with this charging site? So, there is a site right now that Tesla has in Fort McLeod, but you can only charge if you're a Tesla, at a Tesla site. Whereas ours, we can charge anything, you know.
Is that like having an iPhone charger versus a
To a degree, I think it is, except for because Tesla has a different end, they won't, you know, you can't convert from a Tesla to Toyota or Chevy Volt. They're not compatible at all, but you can buy a Tesla charger that you can plug into a normal outlet in the wall type of thing. So anyway, it was really quite interesting, you know, how this all fallen together. This lady that spoke, she has a Chevy Volt, but she didn't come out bringing out that day because the wind was blowing pretty good. Like PB Mart has 2 in Lethbridge charging centers, so this High River has 2, like, so you can charge your car at PB Mart. If you have an electric one. Then I went to the doctor retention. They're changing their name and they're changing a bit of their mandate from doctor retention to just retention and recruitment. And they've got another doctor that is coming out for a locum for a whole month, and then she probably will stay on after, by the sounds of it. And then they're looking at another doctor to replace probably Len when Len retires. So they're looking at 2 doctors right now. I also went to the ICS 200 for 1.5 days anyway. And then that afternoon I went to the joint use meeting. Joint use, they've got a new, I don't know what you call them, I don't call them facility manager, I guess it is, and they're proposing to do some major renovations to the CRC. Of course, they would love to see some funding come from the county and town, but they're coming up with a proposal, but they'd like to do some of it this year. So it might affect some of the bookings, so Bonnie was having, you know, to deal with how they can work around that, because they would like to have both months of July and August completely used for the renovations to the facility. They'd also like to pave the parking lot. Again, too, they'll probably be coming back to the town where they request for funding on the paving. They have an engineering firm on retainer that's going to do some engineering to see what, you know, was recommended. So I suggested they get a hold of Kim and Stu, and they can maybe tie into the storm sewer system or look at what they have to do.
Drain into the energy.
The drainage issues. So I had a SEWA executive meeting, and then this on the 25th we have a SEWA meeting coming up. So and other than that, that was pretty about it.
Did they say, just like curiosity, like how they were going to determine which grades of charging stations were going to go where?
Oh, like under this program, all the charging stations, and I can't remember what level they are, but they're a 2nd grade level, so they're not the really super fast one, because they take way too much power and heat, you know, they produce so much heat. So these ones here were charging the same as one we have here, you know, charged between 4 and 6 hours. Whereas the other ones, super fast ones, charge, you know, 20 minutes to an hour, but they produce so much heat that and you have to have 440 3-phase power and whole works for it, so it's lovely. And right at the moment, all of these will be free to use.
Oh,
There's quite a discussion. It's like water, it's against the law to sell water, but it's not against the law to purify it or clean it or bottle it, or, you know, it's against the law to sell it. So that's the same with power. It's against the law to sell power, but you can charge for your stall that they park in. So you can charge them, you know, an hourly base to park in the stall to plug it in. So if somebody wants to park in that stall and not plug it in, well, they pay for, you know, they're trying to come up with a method, but there is ways around charging for it. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention about a meeting that's coming up. There's a meeting on Thursday, it's the regional recreation meeting, and they have asked the town rep off of recreation and the county rep to attend that meeting, and I just wanted to ask permission to go to it.
Where's it at?
It'll be at the Lodge Hall
Oh.
on Thursday. I think it's at 1 o'clock on Thursday.
And it's a regional one, you say?
Yeah, so like all the different, like Lowman, Milo, all the different county or towns and that will all be there. And they just kind of all share ideas and brainstorm.
Okay, so we need a motion to,
I'm sorry about that, I forgot all about that.
okay, Paul moves the, allow Georgie to go. Any question on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anything else for council reports? If not, somebody wish to move them be filed? Laura? Any question on Laura's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to administration reports, January management report. Action list. Any question on any of those? Okay, somebody wish to move this? Paul? Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, CAO administration report.
You've all had a chance to read through the report. Is there any questions? It's very straightforward. I did get some further information for the informal complaints on the peace officer, one that may go to a formal complaint. Just as a clarification, there's basically two. If a taxpayer comes with a complaint about the peace officer, it can come in the informal or formal. Formal comes with a standard investigation. So formal comes in writing. So we have one currently where the person came in, made informal, and is not sure whether he's going to make it formal or not, so we're waiting on that.
Okay.
And the rest is pretty straightforward.
Any questions, comments?
Did want to add that Stu put on there to thank you for the council for the extra time off through Christmas, and I did hear from the rest of the staff in here that read the agenda that that also is from the inside staff. So,
Okay. Somebody wish to move George Lee? Any question on George Lee's? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. 10.3, development officers.
you can ask Nancy directly.
No. Okay, no questions. Somebody wish to move Nancy's report? Miles? Okay. Any question on Miles' motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to Public Works.
I'm assuming the boilers are in the arena.
Yes. Stu's collecting quotes for them as we speak.
Okay, any questions on any of that for Stu? question on Laura's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to the Community Services Manager's Report.
For the Vulcan Lodge Hall getting their kitchen certified, or the Lodge Hall Society, where there's no kitchen
In the
Lodge
lodge hall?
Yeah, there's
the
like a
basement.
really good
downstairs.
kitchen downstairs.
Oh,
there. Yeah, I was just thinking, never mind.
Yeah.
Scratch that.
and the advantage of getting it registered and certified is then when the other groups go in, it makes it a little easier for some of them, so,
Food service and things.
yeah, on the food services part.
Oh, okay.
It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal, like, it's a lot of work to make sure everything meets all the criteria that the,
It allows other groups to use it, and AHS supports the use of it, or, sorry, not AHS,
yeah,
the health department.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Steves who comes in and does the inspection.
So does that happen at, like, say, for the Hall at the Legion and other?
yeah, if it's a public facility, they have to, but, I mean, like a restaurant, but I mean, like the school, as an example, they have a choice whether they want to have it. But yet the CRC, they probably will get it, get it approved, So, whereas the school one, like the home ec lab, they could ask for permission to get it done or not, type thing, so. So a lot of FCSS would be the same way, to meet the criteria, you have to have, your dishwashers and all the hand washing sinks and all that. So it's not a big job in a way, but it is, like, I mean, it won't have a problem getting it, it's just, it's a work to get the process. And then once it's done, then it's easier to keep up with time.
So does that help with insurance?
No, I don't think so.
Don't think, well, it just the groups that can use it can do food service out of there for a proper event rather
Yeah.
than just a private event.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other questions on these? If not, somebody wish to move community services forward? Law? Any question on Law's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving on to the community peace officers.
I've been asked to check for, we had a resident who received a warning or a notice regarding snow removal for the driveway. Can they receive a fine for not clearing the driveway if they clean their sidewalk?
No, it's just the sidewalk.
It's just the sidewalk?
Well-
There is 15 feet of boulevard there though, and there's maintained boulevard, so if the driveway's on the boulevard, then yes.
So like mine as an example, that piece that goes from the street to the sidewalk, the driveway part is really the boulevard. I need to shovel it along with the sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
So
So
every
sidewalk to the street.
every house, if you go from the pavement back on every piece of property in town, approximately 15 feet from there belongs to the town, approximately. So if there is a piece of pavement, driveway, sidewalk on that, then it's your responsibility as a homeowner to shovel it, keep it clean.
Maintenance of boulevard.
And if you read what it says, it says any hard surface, so even a gravel-packed driveway would be classified as a hard surface, and you're supposed to shovel it. I think if it's not being used, they probably don't put a lot of weight in it, but anyway.
one thing that Greg did change on his report, based on some questions that came from council is, there's been questions about the warnings as opposed to actual tickets that he gives out. And so he's included
Not in that graph.
on the graph. So you can see, he, in this case, a quarter of his stops are tickets, so 3/4 of them are warnings. So he's gonna include this on his monthly report, so if you do get questions from ratepayers on that, you can answer for a month-to-month basis, the amount of tickets versus warnings that he's giving out.
And you can also see in his report that when the electronic sign is used, that you see that the numbers fall off. And when it's not being used, then the numbers go up. And I guess that's just, common. If something flashes in your face that says you're speeding, then you usually say that's time to slow down instead of trying to remember that, you're in a playground zone or you're in a.
Hence my previous question, a couple months back, do we want to think about another set of?
Yeah.
We've been moving them around, and it seems to be very successful.
Yeah, and I'm not sure either, Paul. I mean, there is a cost factor to that too,
Yeah,
and,
they're not cheap.
I don't know how many times you drive down the road and I don't know how many of these are reoccurrences either. So you kind of sit back and say, sooner or later, somebody should be smart enough to figure out that you're in the playground zone. And if you're not, maybe it's time you figure out what that sign says and why it's there.
I was amused watching somebody going down through the playground zone at 3 o'clock in the morning at 30K.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I mean, there's lots of people that do slow down, or, and they anticipate that, there could be kids out. And again, too, it won't be too long, and we'll be going around and making sure our signage is all in place and up to date, okay, any other questions on Greg's? Okay, if not, we'll move on to, somebody wish to move that one? Paul? Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Move on to the fire services report. Being it's the end of the year, we'll probably be getting a year to date, or like
Hopefully a total.
total year, yeah. It'd be nice to see it from year to year, but. Okay, any questions on Peters? Hearing none, someone wish to move it? Laura? Any question on Laura's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, so now we need to move in camera for the next item.